Hello everyone, welcome for a new Strategus video. Today we keep going with our tutorial. I know they are getting long, but I like to have more videos with titles so people can select a specific part of the video, and having a 3 hour video can get boring. I think it's better if you run step by step. You can decide to watch one video per week, one per month, anything you want, so it's easier to like digest the knowledge and then apply it. So now I want to speak about another aspect of the game. Again, it's not a rule, so it's more about what else about the rule, and it's about memory. Memory is a key element in Stratego, and I think it's extremely hard to win a game if you forget all the pieces. Now, there are four my understanding, there are four knowledge of memory you need to have. The first one is the most common one, is remember your opponent's pieces. So again, we come back with this balance between material and knowledge. So let's imagine we have a major here, we have known colonel here, and an unknown piece here. Well, as blue, we can decide. Oh, sorry, unknown red piece here. So we can decide to sacrifice our known colonel to take a known major. So our opponent doesn't have that. So yeah, we capture something we are sure it's a major, it's good, right? And he takes our colonel, let's say, with his marshal. So yes, we are down in material, but we have the knowledge of the marshal and he has no more knowledge about us. So in the end, we are down in material, but we are still up a major. So we didn't give a colonel for free, right? We got one piece and we have the knowledge. Now the piece will not stay revealed, and again we will have to remember that first of all it moves, and we have to remember that this one is the marshal. And of course our opponent will move most likely to the center to cover both sides of his field. And we have to keep track of the marshal. Some players will decide to shuffle, move a lot of pieces. It's important to really take the time to remember every piece we know. As I said in a previous video, we don't want to lose more than one piece to the same piece, and it's really annoying when you lose a piece to something you knew. So that's the first type of memory we have. We want to remember all the pieces we know. The second thing we have to remember, it's quite, for me it's quite easier for some reasons, but for some people just forget it. It's what my opponent knows. And with this, I mean my opponent has to okay, I have my I have all my pieces revealed, right? But does my opponent know this lieutenant, for example? Well, if he doesn't, I can use it to bluff. If he does, well, I can't use it anymore for bluff because he may take it without taking any risk, right? So remember what your opponent knows about you, and for both sides, so about your opponents and your side. Out of remembering piece, remember also the squares, so you want to remember which square are moving. Now, I read on some platforms that people were asking, okay, can we take notes while playing? Well, nobody can check it, right? You are playing online, so you can actually do whatever you want. You could even put a piece tracker or have, I don't know, a setup editor, and you can just, mark all the pieces which move, so it's pretty easy to do. It's unfair, because in life you can't do it, right? So, instead, you have to remember and make your brain work. So, which piece moves, what squares moves, and sometimes it's extremely useful to remember on the back row which pieces moves, because one may have forgotten that he moved that piece and you can take it at a later stage, and it also removes options of tripod or bombed in flags, knowing which pieces on the third row moves. So it can be extremely useful. Now, I was thinking about a third type of memory. it's much harder to implement, but I think this makes a difference between already an intermediate advanced player and a pro player, is to remember where a piece comes from. And from this you will be allowed to say, okay, this, let's say we have a piece here, so it moves, and it starts moving and goes here, come back, and stay here. Okay, and at the second point, you know, you have, I don't know, a general here. Okay, you have a general here, and this piece, which was here, now is, oh, sorry, we have a blue general. Okay, we have a blue general and a piece here attacking you. And we have to remember, okay, shall we attack it or shall we be afraid of it? Well, if we remember it was a front row, it's quite unlikely, usually, that it is the marshal. So we can be quite confident this is not a marshal and this is bluff. And if it's not covered, we can even decide to jump. Take a risk, yes, but quite moderate because we don't expect this. So from the position, the starting position of piece, we can guess what kind of power the piece is. It's also useful if you remember, for example, let's say you remember that the starting of your opponents, say you remember these pieces. I always try to remember these 6 pieces or these 9 pieces here, because I think they give a good information. So let's say I remember, I don't know, I'm just inventing, these 6 pieces here. Okay, and we have, or let's say these 5 pieces here, and we have this one which is unknown, right? And is attacking us. I know a major, I know colonel, I know sergeant, captain. Okay, do I expect a colonel here? Well, not really, right? It would be weird to have 2 colonels like this, same as it would be weird to have 2 major like this. Now, I could expect a scout, why not? A minor would be weird. Yeah, a sergeant could be, lieutenant could be, captain could be. General would be weird for me, personally. Marshal could be, because it would make sense, right? It covers the colonel, it covers the major. But it's quite weird as well, because, you know, you come with a captain, then you trade, he's forced to trade, and you have a scout, and easily scouted. So I would expect more of a weak piece, a bluffing piece. Of course, it can go wrong, and it depends on what you know from here or from this side and so on, and how this piece acted. But just by remembering where a piece comes from and what was around it, you can kind of guess what it could be, even if it's not one specific piece. It starts getting extremely difficult. And again, I come back with my last game against Maelstrom for the Grandmaster League. Many times I said, oh, this is a major. Well, I was wrong most of the time, but I was not that wrong because it was captains. So I was in the good range, right? So if you can estimate the range, like you expect a weak, a medium, or a high piece, you can make good inferences. If you're not sure, try to scout it, and then you get knowledge and better understand your opponent's structure. So this is the third type of memory, where pieces come from, what was surrounded by it. The last thing I want to recommend about memory, and it's even harder, and it's the step which makes the difference between a pro and a champion for me, is how piece was used. So out of remembering where a piece comes from, what was around it, what you know around it, you have to keep track of all of the pieces, all this at the same time, right? And for 40 pieces, well, you also need to remember, okay, how was it used? Was it protected, like, did it give you the opportunity to scout it, or was it always covered? Was it protecting a piece? Was it in retreat? Was it in the front? How was this piece used? And based on how it was used, you can expect it to be a weak or a strong piece. Getting back at my game against Maelstrom, at a certain point I was quite confident about a piece being the spy, and I was out of the fact that I was right. if you check the video, he never gave me any opportunity to scout that piece. From time, I think he understood that I understood that that was the spy. Well, I didn't get any option to scout it, so it was quite a confirmation, and I kept following. I remember what it came from, I remembered what was around it, and with all these informations, I was able to make pressure, and it was extremely disturbing for him. So these are the 4 types of memory that needs to be used. Another thing, link with memory, which I like to do, and some people find it weird, but I think it's great, is to understand if your opponent has a good or bad memory. Well, there are some people, you are playing a world champion, he has a good memory, so you don't need to test it. You can assume he remembers everything, except if he's tired for whatever reason. But there are some players I just don't know, or sometimes they are good, sometimes they are bad. I don't remember. So I can try to jump with a known piece, which I don't mind losing, and see if he immediately jumps on it because he remembers it, or if he is afraid of it, even if I follow a known piece of his with a known piece of mine, but weaker. So this can be kind of useful. Another way to test it is just to, shuffle a bit, come with that piece back, see if it gets scouted, and if it does, then you go back. You can also see if you are moving a known piece, if he is following it with one of his pieces, like you have a known general, is he following this known general with an unknown piece? You can say, okay, it could be the marshal, right, who wants to be on the good spot to follow my gen. So all these small things about how a piece behaves in the end, and if you see that your opponent forgot, for example, a lieutenant, sometimes people are too much focused, say, okay, I remember the gen, I remember the marshal, they just forget maybe a sergeant or lieutenant which was found at the beginning. So that could be extremely useful. Usually people don't forget bombs because, well, they don't move, so they are quite easy, and they are always a good indication of a flag. So you say, oh, I know the bomb, the flag could be behind it. So bombs usually are not forgotten. It's really, I think it really hardly ever happens that someone jumps on the same bomb twice. However, it happens a bunch of time, especially if I have a front row, early minor, like it gets scouted and the people say, oh fuck, I got just a minor, I wasted a scout, and then you move the minor and people forget the minor and you can take a second scout. That's excellent, because you wasted 2 pieces on the same known piece, and he shows that he forgot it. And if he gets distracted, he may then forget higher pieces. It often happens to me that, for example, we have a piece here and suddenly it moves here, and I don't remember if the piece which moved here was the one which was on c7 at the beginning or d8 at the beginning, and it gets extremely confusing to me, and I'm like, oh my god, which one was it? And it's just 2 seconds to forget a piece. In that situation, when you know you forget piece, you need to try to remember, okay, how it behaves. And yeah, that's it. So try not to show your opponent that you forgot a piece, because if you see is that you forgot it, well, it will definitely not, it will definitely play on it. On the other hand, if your opponent assumes that you will not forget it, and usually people remembers what is known from them, well, you will not bluff with his known piece, a known piece of yours, right? Especially if you remember it. So usually it works this way. That's almost it for the memory. I think it's a key element. Now I presented it and you can say, oh well, easy, Well, try it with 40 pieces. It's extremely hard and it takes a lot of energy. That's why I still can't understand people playing 40, 50, 60 games in a row against the same opponent. After 3, 4, 5 games, I'm really tired because it takes a lot of energy to track every pieces, and then sometimes you mix what you remember from one piece, from a match, from a new match. So you need also to leave your brain, make a break, right, and know when it's time to stop if you really want to win the game. Sometimes it's also tricky because you are confident a piece moved, and actually it turns out that it was a bomb just here. It happens to me a lot of time. I'm confident because all these pieces around moved, so I say, okay, this one must have moved, and then I lose a colonel, a major, a general, marshal on bomb. So if you are unsure a piece moved, don't try it, because it may be a bomb. Alright, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and see you soon for the next tutorial.